first. We're going to have a lot of traffic out because people are going to think it's no big deal. And then this afternoon, it's just going to be chaos.
I was just going to say, this afternoon it's supposed to finally roll in, and I feel like a lot of people aren't really preparing for that, getting their cars ready to go and everything. What do you guys say when it comes to getting your cars ready to go?
You know, the key is preparation. Nobody plans on getting in a crash or sliding into the ditch, but if you're prepared for that, it makes it a lot easier. You know, make sure that you have the appropriate equipment in your car, a snow shovel, an ice scraper, maybe even some cat litter and abrasive that you could put under your tires if you slide off the road. But also water, make sure your phone's charged, make sure people know where you're going when you leave, when you get there. All these things are important so that we can find you if you do crash. But then if you do find yourself in the ditch, stay in your car with your seatbelt on. That's the safest thing. If you get out, remember, if you crashed there, there's a good chance somebody else coming behind you is going to do the same thing.
And I think I recall last week you were talking about on Twitter, a guy got pulled over. He, had a crash, and he's like, well, the roads caused me to crash. What do you have to say about that?
We often debate this with people, but the road doesn't cause the crash. It could be a factor, but snow or ice on the road is never the cause of the crash. It's somebody's driving behavior that causes it. It may not be your own. Maybe somebody else caused you to crash, but driving behavior is what causes the crash, not the physical road.
And what do you guys normally see?
Well, one of the things that when we start hitting the road, like right now, the roads are just very wet. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of business as usual, as if we were dealing with heavy rains. We know that's going to change, so that's going to affect some time on how quickly we get to some responses. We're going to also be dealing with having to move people in and out of homes on EMS calls, and that can be very treacherous when you're moving someone on a cot from their home out to the ambulance and everything is iced over. It gets very dangerous. And then, of course, if we move into a fire situation, and as these temperatures drop, it becomes very brutal on firefighters and their equipment. And so we've spent like a whole week planning ahead for this, so to make sure that we have a plan to get our folks into dry clothes, that we get them warm. So we've been working on this for a while, just like hopefully everyone else has out there in the public. But we'll see if the proof's in the pudding at the by Monday.
Yeah.
And I know driving around, we're expected potentially 8 inches of snow today. With fire hydrants, that's another big thing that you guys have to look at.
That's correct. One of the issues, if we don't get 8 inches of snow per se, but people with snow plows or snow blowers are moving the snow and they cover up a fire hydrant, or if we do get a considerable accumulation of snow, we want to make sure we're clearing those fire hydrants away. So getting a shovel out and helping us to clear the fire hydrants in the neighborhood is not only going to help you and your neighbors, it also helps us, because all it's going to do for us is double our time on getting our water supply for a fire. And as we know, fire can grow 2 times in size every minute, and so the longer it takes us to get our water supply established, the more chance that we're going to run into issues trying to save property. So clear those fire hydrants away.
And we actually have the Indy Snow Force app pulled up right now. It shows where all those salt trucks are going. How important is it to get those salt trucks out there, especially heading into this afternoon?
Yeah, right now they're kind of in a holding pattern because they can't put salt on the road if it's raining. It'll just wash off. But I know that they're out. We've seen them. We've spoken with them, and they're doing a great job to prepare for this. But that's, one of the things that we do as the state police, we'll go around and start towing all the abandoned vehicles that are on the side of the road. Usually there's a time limit, but when the weather hits, we don't follow that time limit. So if your car breaks down and you think, hey, I'm just going to leave it for an hour, and you come back and it's gone, it's likely not stolen. We've removed it, not just for the snow plows, but if somebody does lose control, that's one less thing that they could hit.
And I was just going to say, you see these big snow plows, these salt trucks. Should you have extra caution when you are around them?
Yeah, I don't quite understand why somebody wants to be in such a hurry to pass a salt truck. If you're on the interstate and there's a salt truck a quarter mile ahead of you, I would just relax and try to kind of stay back and let them do their job. But people get impatient and they try to go around these large salt trucks, and sometimes it's throwing snow, ice, slush, salt, all these things, get on your windshield. And often we have people hit salt trucks because they lose control trying to pass them.
I think it should be a requirement that when you go through driver's ed, you have to spend at least 2 days in a salt truck with a salt truck operator just to see what it's like. And I think you give a whole new appreciation for that.
It might.
Well, it's like semis, kind of the same deal. It's like they're operating these huge vehicles. I mean, there's going to be more blind spots.
And semis create another problem. We do have the very cautious semi drivers, but then we also have the ones that their truck was 80,000 pounds. The snow doesn't slow them down, so they'll get out in the left lane and they'll drive the speed limit, and they'll get right on people's bumpers. They'll push them around. They're throwing salt and slush. But the problem becomes when they try to stop. And when they try to stop, they end up jackknifing, and we end up with jackknife semis blocking the road all over the place because they get going so fast that then they can't stop when they need to.
When we see these travel advisories start popping up, what do you, I guess, tell the drivers out there when it comes to those?
And pay attention. You know, don't play it off like it's nothing. Don't assume that it's wrong. Plan ahead and make sure your vehicle's prepared. Make sure you're prepared. Leave early or plan on being late, one or the other. But, you know, just careful planning is the key to safety.
Yeah, and you were talking about if your car breaks down on the side of the road, what should you do immediately at that point?
Well, you know, of course, call for help, and whoever that may be. Now, the problem is sometimes people rely on their roadside service. Some of the more popular roadside services, last weekend, we're telling people a 3 or 4 hour wait. That's a long time to sit on the side of a hazardous highway. So have a plan B. That might be you might have to pay out of your pocket to have a tow truck come. But in the Indianapolis area, most tow trucks can respond within 20 or 30 minutes if you call them directly. But going through those roadside service sometimes takes a little bit longer. Stay in your car. Don't get out to, you know, some people just don't quite understand when they're standing along the side of the highway how absolutely dangerous it is to be standing there. And so stay in your car with your seatbelt on. It's the safest thing you can do.
And I feel like a lot of people, they say, well, I'm a safe driver and all that stuff, but they're not really paying attention to the other drivers who might not really be caring or paying attention to the road conditions.
Story after story of people involved in head-on collisions. They were doing everything they were supposed to, and the car coming from the opposite direction crosses over. You just never know when it's going to happen. It could be a distracted driver. It could be a driver under the influence of alcohol. But you just never know, and you have to be totally prepared to respond to whatever that oncoming traffic or coming up to an intersection, any situation like that.
And that's one of the big reasons why when the weather hits like this that we suggest people to stay home, cancel their plans, because it's not all about your vehicle, your vehicle's technology, your ability, whatever you have or whatever you can do. The risk is heightened because of the other drivers too. And so that's the scary thing is some people don't heed those warnings, and you know we see them flying in the snow, or they think, hey, people don't know how to drive in the snow, I'm going to go around them. But those are the dangerous ones.
So when it comes to seeing somebody maybe having a crash, or you're in a crash, emergency lines, non-emergency lines, when should you use either or? You
know, either acceptable. We know our dispatch center gets very busy, but we bring in more resources to help answer those phones. What we're asking people not to do is tie up those phone lines with non-emergency calls. Some people say, well, what's an emergency call? If you're stranded on the side of the road and the only thing you can think to do is call 911, then that's acceptable. You know, if you're involved in a crash or if somebody's hurt, you know, all the typical emergencies. But if all you want to know is if the road is clear, or if the plows have been through yet, or hey, I'm driving through your city, what are the roads like? That's not the time to tie up those emergency lines. There are other resources. NDOT has a website, trafficwise.in.gov. We'll take you straight to a great website that'll show you statewide travel advisories and traffic and everything.
And you know, we're talking about the snow, but tomorrow it's supposed to be bitter cold. I don't know if you could talk about that a little bit, about fires, you know, heaters, all of that.
Well, one of the things that we see happen, and we saw this happen in the last couple years, is people have pipes that freeze. And so then they want to get these thawed out, obviously, so they'll use a propane torch, or they'll put a space heater on the pipes, leave it unattended, or they're heating that pipe with a propane torch, which we totally discourage that you do that. And that heat transfers down that pipe maybe into a wall where there's something that is combustible, and a fire starts in that wall. And they don't know about it until later, and the next thing you know, they have a large fire burning in their home. So we discourage people from using any type of open flames to thaw their pipes out. You can use a space heater, but you need to be right there with it at all times. Don't put it in the crawl space and leave it there. And if your pipes are frozen to a point that you just don't think you can get it fixed, then call a professional plumber to have them come out and help you thaw those pipes out. So that's one of the problems we see where we get fires that have started in a home. And then the space heaters. We know people are going to take space heaters just for their own warmth, and they're going to start firing those things up later this afternoon as those temperatures start to drop. And the problem we run into there is they put them too close to something, whether it's furniture, a blanket, curtains, anything combustible like that can catch fire. You just need to shut those things off at night when you go to bed, throw on some extra blankets, snuggle up, and if you're going to leave home, shut those space heaters off, because they will catch things on fire if unattended and too close to something that's combustible.
And I saw last week you posted, and you did a very good job,
Thank you.
cleaning your car off after all this snow happens. How much cleaning do you have to do when it comes to that? I know it's a pain. I know it's a pain.
You need to clean that car completely off. You know, we see the people driving around with the little porthole that they're looking out of, trying to drive the car. And then you'll have people that maybe clean their windshield off, but they don't clean the side or the rear windows. Or they clean the windows off, but there's this huge pile of snow that is on top of their vehicle and it's frozen. And so over time, what happens is that becomes a big chunk of just solid ice. And you're driving down the road, and we had this happen a few years ago, came off the roof of a car and went right through the windshield of one of our fire trucks traveling in the opposite direction. And luckily there was no serious injury. But we've seen case histories where the ice has come off the top of vehicles, especially these truck drivers. Some of the truck drivers have big, large sections of snow, and they start traveling down the interstate, they come off. So it'd be my advice to stay back. You know, if you start seeing some snow coming off the top of vehicles, just stay back from them.
Well, and don't forget your headlights and your taillights too, making sure you're keeping those clear. But also when it comes to your headlights and taillights, we have great technology in vehicles, and it almost makes us lazy with that. They come on automatically when it's dark. Yep. But we're asking people not to rely on that technology when you're in inclement weather, because your car doesn't always register that it's snowing because maybe it's bright enough out, and it won't turn on your headlights or your taillights. So make sure you're manually flipping on those headlights and taillights when you're driving in this weather.
Now you have a hashtag right now, knucklehead. Don't drive like a knucklehead. Can you talk about that?
You know, it's just that simple. It's common sense prevails today. When you're out there on the roads, if you have to get out, if you absolutely have to get out, common sense, slow down, increase that following distance, be patient with other drivers. I know that's one of the hardest things to do because we all have places we want to go, and you get behind a slowpoke, but just be patient with them. That could be somebody's first time driving on the snow, or maybe somebody who has experienced a serious crash recently. So just be patient.
Well, we have about 30 seconds left. Any last minute tips before you guys head out?
Hydrate. In the summertime when we're hot and we get dehydrated, we get thirsty. In the wintertime, that doesn't happen with the body. So we have to drink water and hydrate, especially if we're working outside. And also, in closing, check on your neighbors, your elderly neighbors, to make sure that they're okay and that they have their necessities.
I thought you said hibernate for a second. I thought you wanted people to be like you and hibernate.
You got to do that, at least for now.
Do not quit your job as a state police officer, okay? You'll never make it as a comedian.
Got it.
Well, thanks, guys. Sergeant John Perrine, Captain Michael Pruitt here with us. Continue to follow us on RTV6 and follow us on the RTV6 app and on the IndyChannel.com. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.